It is October the 29th, 2024, 7 days until the wrap up of our election here in the United States, our national election, if you will. We'll find out within days whether it's all been worth it. And the answer to that question is sort of a no. The answer is actually yes, because the American experiment, as we call it, democracy as we have defined it, is something that's very much needed in our world. We're the only place where it works exactly like we have it. It's not exactly fair, exactly right, but it works better than any place else. And we need it as a shining beacon on the hill for other hills to see how it works out. However, this has been a tumultuous election cycle. And as they say each time, the most important election in our lifetimes. Although they say that every single time, at least they've said it every single time in my voting lifetime. This one, after the last one and one before that, may actually be on those cases, because all the hints of history repeating themselves are all there together. But it seems the odder part about the history repeating itself is the people who should be obviously seeing the things that are happening aren't seeing what's happening and can't even fathom that something bad could happen, that, oh, everything is great. It's not. It just isn't. Now, let me say right now, as a independent voter, a person who's voted more Republican than Democrat in most cases, although I voted for every president that won except for Trump, I voted for that year Hillary Clinton by holding my nose going there as well, is that I don't have a real dog in the hunt where it lives for an actual party. I may seem to vote right of center, just slightly right of center, but that's because of where I am. I'm conservative on some things, liberal on other things. Some things are just sort of pick and choose as they go. But because of what I see going forward, knowing that there's a Kamala in the mix and there's a Donald in the mix, all I know for sure is that whoever wins this election will break all of our hearts, will break some promises, and will not fulfill our lives the way we want them to, because they can't. In a nation that is literally like a 50-50 split right now in what we kind of want, and two candidates who are giving you more or less what that split is, although not exactly the more like a little quite off the less, it's not great. So at this point in time, early voting here in Arkansas, where I am, started last Monday. So my die has been cast. My vote is in. We'll talk about my vote coming up after the election and the counting of stuff is done. But for those of you who've been following me for a long time, you know that I've been doing this thing where to keep myself sane and keep myself active, I've been publishing various books, trying to build up my business side of work with some books going on, expanding on some ideas I've been using for business to coaching for a while, and mixing things into well for personal development. September is supposed to be a big month for me. I was supposed to produce my second memoir, produce another book on vocabulary words, and another one that was just sort of maybe happening there. But since I knew that was going to be a big deal in August, I sort of backed off. And then September became a nightmare of a month, and October became more of an extension of trying to fix the Septembers. But what did I do to make this thing work? My streak of a book every month has been broken. It was basically started in March and has been broken in September. But I did have something basically waiting in the wings so I can just click this thing off come end of October into November, so I could say if something happened in October, I'd have a book ready and be ready just in time for the election. And it is. So published as of this morning, 7 days out, is a book that is called The Now What Network Manifesto. The Now What Network Manifesto. It is on Amazon. You can find it on Amazon in Kindle and in paperback. And in a few days, since it just got released yesterday, it can be found everywhere your books are sold online. And the big deal is, if you want to get a copy of this and want to check this out, you need to just go by jclevelandpayne.net/books. jclevelandpayne.net/books, or just search for J. Cleveland Payne on Amazon, and the newest book, The Now What Network Manifesto, is there. This is a bit of a talk, so let me explain a bit what's going on for this book. The Now What Network Manifesto is a book, a manifesto, if you will, that helps you, the independent-minded voter, or a person who at least open enough to want to hold people accountable to what's being voted on or who you're voting for, on how to hold people accountable on what they voted on and hold them accountable for. It is that simple. And it's something that came about from an idea. The Now What Network is actually a 2-year-old website that I created in the last election cycle. It's not a nonprofit. It's not a business. It's not an actual organization. It's a simple website that gives you ideas on what to do Now that the election is over and you voted in a person, or you voted for a person that didn't win, now what? Now how do you hold the people accountable that you voted in? Or how do you make sure that the people that you did not vote in are going to do what's best for you, even if they're just working for them? Because we have established that politicians are just as greedy and selfish as regular people. They just have the power to make the purse for all of us and all of our budgets and make things a lot worse before they get better, even if they say they want things to be better. So this is what I want you to do. Number one, ignore the crazy Christmas shirts I have listed in my inbox there, because unless you want to buy one, they're there. What I'm looking for you to do is to check out the Now What Network Manifesto. Here are the chapters of the manifesto, and I'm going to do the thing where old people do when they pull the glasses off so they can read the phones. So that's what's happening here. I turned 50. September was to be a big month of me turning 50, memoir and celebrations, and yeah, it didn't work out. So, but for this election on the 5th, we got a book. So chapter 1, these are 10 tactics. Each chapter is a tactic that you can do to help keep the people who are in office accountable, and the people who did not make office, also keep them accountable for what they're going to do next. Tactic number 1 is stay informed. Number 2, engage in public discourse. Number 3, hold officials accountable. Number 4, support advocacy groups. Number 5, vote in every election. Every election. Number 6, organize and mobilize. Number 7 is direct contact. Number 8, monitor voting records. Number 9 is support transparency. And tactic number 10 is demand ethical conduct. And to make it easy for you to get these things down, the first chapter on why this book and call to action has the 10 things listed and a quick action of them. And the last chapter, called Too Long Didn't Read, is a summary of all 10 tactics in one chapter. Because I know you people. You don't actually read. So if you get this thing, it's one doing a favor to me, because I get a small commission from you buying it, either Kindle or paperback in the form for Amazon or wherever you get it. But like I said, it's going to be in other Plex stores as well. But for you folks that won't read it all, need to get all things together, I've got some quick updates, some quick cliff notes of those things that really exist to give you the rundown of what's going to happen. So you can find this book by going to Amazon, searching for the Now What Network Manifesto, or go to my main website for all my books in print, which is jclevelandpayne.net/books. You'll see the list of books in print. A lot of them printed this year because I was on a tier to do stuff. I thank some ChatGPT and some Grammarly for helping me make some ideas, expand them a bit, and then make them sound like fairly good grammar. Fairly good, always perfect. And you can see things going on. The top book right now is the Now What Manifesto, using citizen power to make your vote and voice actually count in national politics. That screen's up there. That's why I read it from there. Although I should have clicked that button here as well. But you can check it out at jclevelandpayne.net/books to get into that one. You can also, once you've gone into that one, actually sign up, not on the manifesto itself per se, but sign up for more stuff, more information as this goes. As I said, this is not a nonprofit. This is not necessarily, it's not a business thing. This is an offshoot of what we do for More Better Media, just because it's more media, more learning, more information. But you can also take a stop by the website for this actual idea, which is the Now What Network. And this was created about 2 years ago, like I said, in the midterm elections, to go forth and sort of carry on poking people and poking bears and human beings and keep them accountable for what it was they said they were going to do in the election. Did they do it? Most of them not. And will they do it this time? Probably not. If you have the dream of a Kamala Harris saving us from Donald Trump, or Donald Trump saving us from Kamala Harris, one of those two people will be in charge of the planet for all practical purposes going forward, and they will do what they say they're going to do to a point. And when that point ends, the things they actually promised up that aren't actually coming down, they may be actually better for you than you think, or they may turn out a whole lot worse than you thought, or they may just consider your cause, your thing, just not even worthy at the time, and just kind of ignore it at that point by the time things happen. Because that's what happens. Politicians promise a lot of stuff and deliver Not much of it. I don't have a real number, but an internet number would be a good 45%, would be a great level of people getting good stuff done, which is why candidates usually only have about a 37% approval rating in any cases. It is how it goes. But by going to the Now What Network and keeping up with what I have going on there, we'll do more, trust me, we'll do more advertising and more dropping bombs on that one inside of the Conversation Project things going forward. You can keep an eye on how people are doing, how to keep them doing what they should be doing, and what they're not doing that you probably should keep an eye on. A lot of eyes on the Now What. As it said, it's a phrase. Now that this person's in charge, now what? This person has won the popular vote or the non-popular vote or the electoral college vote, as it is for the president. Now what? It's not the person you wanted to be in there. So now what? It is the person you wanted to be there. So now what? What do we do now that that person's in charge and has the fingers over the buttons, both verbally and in real time, to get things going or keep things working? Now what? Well, the Now What Network Manifesto is a book that goes through what to do in that manifesto, in that book, on what to do forward. The Now What Network is the website that has more things. There'll be a newsletter along with it as well to give you things to keep your government accountable, whether it's on the local end, which is where the real work happens, or the national end, where you really have very little say in the matter other than the one vote and, you know, the votes accompanying people who are supposed to help those things get the vote done. But it is how it works. Remember, I am very famous for saying your vote doesn't matter. What you say doesn't make a difference. And that is, in a sense, the truth, but it comes with a bit of context, comes with a bit of explanation. If you are one of 10 people and you want pineapple on your pizza, and no one wants pineapple on your pizza, unless someone feels really, really bad for you, there is no pineapple in the pizzas coming to that group, because your one vote for pineapple over 9 people for everything that's really something that's really normal is going to outweigh everything. And no one's going to put the odd pineapple on someone's pizza just because one person got it. You will just have to live with what comes up there, unless there's some allergy, and then they'll get your own gluten-free whatever. But in a coalition, in a group, in a mass of people, your vote gathered with other people who agree the same thing really matters. That's why if you feel really powerful about a issue, really strongly about a candidate, really serious about some sort of social injustice that's being undone that you think that your guy can actually do and fix, it's important that you find like-minded people who are considering the same vote and make sure that you all go out and vote together. And sometimes, unlike the pineapple pizza explanation, your vote as a protest or your vote as being counted, your vote to at least keep the margins from being so crazy, is the real important thing. If a person wins an election by a 65 to 45, a 65 to 35% vote, that's a nice long swath of numbers. Person wins election by a 55 to 45 vote, that's a good chunk of numbers. Person wins by 52%, that means something. So even if you feel like you're voting against something and that's not going to work, it makes a difference. Caveat to that, in this election, what we're going to find is the normal protest vote, which is a third party, and most of those go to people like Jill Stein or people who say they're libertarian and want to kind of give some sort of weight to those parties, or maybe one of the independents like Cornel West, who's just out there doing his thing right now, or maybe you really were down with Bobby Kennedy before he actually, the other Bobby Kennedy, obviously, before he actually went MAGA, essentially. Those votes count, and those votes counts as your protest, so it's fine. But in all actual seriousness, with 7 days left of this election, if you see this, if you watch this before the election is over, this is going to come up between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. And so if you want to protest against one of those two, don't throw your vote away this time. This is one time where your vote to a third party or writing someone in is a throwaway vote. You're letting the other people decide what's happening for you, which you always are, but the margins are so big and the differences between the candidates are so wide that you kind of want to actually have some say in the matter, whether your guy is the winner or the loser. We'll talk about who I voted for, although should be no secret if you've watched any of my videos and how I actually cover news going forward. It should be no secret where I'm going for in this election. But we'll talk more about the whys of it after the 5th-ish, basically, once we get somebody who's actually in place, so we can kind of complain about both of them. Because we will complain about both of them. Because both of them will do a terrible job in the grand scheme of things. Because, unfortunately, it's not about you. It's about them holding the office. That's the really sad part about politics and people who want to run for the job of being your boss. There usually are people that you probably don't really want to give the job of being your boss. That being said, the purpose of this video is to sell a book. And books we shall try to sell. We try to sell a book called The Now What Network Manifesto. And you can find that book listing at jclevelandpayne.net/books. All my books currently in print are there listed as well, or search for it on Amazon. It just got released literally today. This morning, it went live in both paperback and in Kindle. And in a few days, you should see it trickle down to other marketplaces online as it will. If it pops up in a local bookstore someplace where you are, it will take a while to get there. Let me know. I do actually work deals with some bookstores in small places around the nation, places I'll probably never get a chance to see, but we do make sure it's in some small bookstores, a few copies, because they want independent books out there. I am so independent, it is insane. With that, thank you so much for joining us for this little jaunt, this little extra credit jaunt we have here today. Stop by our website, thisisaconversationproject.com. Let us know how we're doing. Check out all the feeds we have for the news articles we cover. You can also check out More Better Media, the larger grand scheme things of this we do for More Better Media. Media that is more better for you, more educational, more entertaining, and more enlightening as possible, if we can get enlightening with those issues. For the Conversation Project, make sure you're following us for our feeds on Facebook, on X, on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram, on the Threads, and letting us know what stories, as we talk about news stories, posting them in those feeds, what stories are conversational for the shows and for the engagement we have there as well. Considering being a partner, considering check out some of our sponsors. We're not bringing in now other than these books. I get a small commission for the books, if you will. And of course, consider subscribing to more stuff. If you're not subscribed already, stuff gets better. I'm actually very proud of my presentation today, mostly because it's 4 in the afternoon and it's not 4 in the morning. And I'm actually awake for once, so that makes a difference. The phone's not ringing too, which is also awesome. But we do stuff like this. We give you a somber look at news, although my opinion sometimes gets a little spicy, but we look at it from a perspective of what stories you want to talk about. You engage in news article links that we send out, and from those engagement numbers, we talk about those specifically, and we sneak in some stuff out there. Celine Dion, we'll always talk Celine Dion. She'll always make a story if she pops up. She can be at the grocery store. Celine Dion gets a headline. Everybody else, they got to work for it. It is what it is. So, from all the crew behind the scenes at the Conversation Project and working behind the scenes for More Better Media, I'm Jay Cleveland Payne. Thank you so much for being one of us, being a news nerd, and more importantly, being a politics news nerd and wanting to be engaging in politics. Whether you actually show up for your political action committee meetings, you are in a registered party, you come to rallies or whatever, if you're watching this video and watch this much video, you definitely want to know how things are going and care about the actual outcomes from this election and elections going further. This book, very simple, nothing earth-shattering, but 10 tactics you can use just in case you're wondering, just scratching your head saying, okay, now that Trump won, now that Kamala won, now that this person is my senator, this guy is my representative, this dude is our constable, I actually got this guy into dog catcher office. Some people will run for a dog catcher. How do I make sure he does, she does, they do what they said they're going to do? Or even better, things that are good for me, even if they didn't plan on doing it. These 10 tactics will help you make sure these things happen. With that, Jay Cleveland Payne bids you adieu. We will do more things coming down the line in later videos.